Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast for the Becoming Elli community, episode number 22. Hi, I'm Jill. Welcome back to Becoming Elli, where women over 50 inspire each other to become fit and strong.
Hi, I'm Chris. Our community is named for Elli, the Norse goddess of aging. She surprised everyone when she beat Thor in a wrestling match. Please go to the Becoming Elli Facebook group and join our community of women trying to be like Elli.
Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, too. Hey, Chris, we received a review last week on our Becoming Elli Facebook page. Liz from Silver Springs, Maryland, recommended our podcast.
Wow.
Discovered you through the podcast, and so glad I did. The information is relevant and usable, and the guests are inspiring. Thank you so much, Liz.
Yes, thank you, Liz. I'm so glad that you're finding this to be helpful.
Today, we're going to talk about the power of words. I know that it's easier to say negative things than positive things.
It's easy for you to say, right?
Yeah, apparently.
Well,
apparently negative things really are easier to say.
Well, I really noticed when I'm running. I feel like sometimes when I'm running, the negative things try to creep into my mind, and I know it all goes much better if I can stay positive and stay focused. I guess it's that self-talk, the power of what we say to ourselves.
Right. Yeah, I know sometimes when I'm running, I say things like, I hate this. Why do I do this? I do the same thing at boot camp, I notice. And it's silly I just say sometimes really negative things about it. And when I think about it, that's completely the wrong attitude to be having.
Yeah. Well, I can get myself in a tizzy, whether it's about the weather or traffic or anything. If I can focus on positive things and, not start going down that path of negative, even if the weather is not what I would have picked that day, I know that we need rain. I know that we need cold for different reasons, It just makes a much better life if I stay on the positive side of things.
Well, that's true. That's true for a lot of things besides just fitness, but I agree with you 100%. So, you know what? This is a good way to lead into our discussion today. Today we feature someone who has overcome adversity and managed to become fit and strong in the face of some serious health conditions.
Vicki Prussak was working as a wellness coach, helping women to set goals for healthy living and fitness when she learned that sometimes it's easy to forget the power of staying positive. And we're going to talk about that today.
Besides being a business owner, Vicki has had several careers, including wellness coaching, graphic design for various large corporations, and has at one time in her life done belly dancing to stay fit and agile. In her latest career, Vicki has developed a line of jewelry to encourage others to stay focused and positive.
We talked with Vicki about Carry Your Message, her inspirational line of handcrafted jewelry. She helps us to understand why tucking an inspirational message into a necklace helps us to stay motivated and focused.
In this age of wearable technology, wearable messaging certainly has a place. It's a great way to remember your goals and what's important to you.
Please join us as we welcome Vicki Prussak in the 22nd episode of Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast for the Becoming Elli community. Today we have Vicki Prussak with us, and we're really excited to have her on today's podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Well, I really appreciate you asking. Thank you so much.
So among many things in your career, you have a website and a line of jewelry that is quite inspirational. And I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of background about yourself, as it relates to the Carry Your Message.
Oh, absolutely. Carry Your Message is an inspirational, meaningful jewelry line, and it came out of my need to make personal changes, just wanting to change my habits. And I couldn't remember what I wanted to do. And you get busy in your day and you forget all the goals. They go out the window. So I made jewelry back when I was a teenager. So I put inspirational quotes and words that really lit me up in the morning. And then when I'd look in the mirror, I'd see it and remember it and help me get back on track.
So you've been making jewelry for a long time.
A real long time.
And
That's very
how
cool.
long have you been doing it now with the inspirational messages?
Well, what happened is I left corporate America in 2009 and was working as a wellness coach. As I was working with my clients, I found they were forgetting their goals. They would get out in their busy day and they would forget. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's right. I remember. And so I closed down that business in 2014 and decided I wanted to try to carry your message to life. I started in 2014. It was just starting to ramp up. Then I had an accident with my eyes in October of 2015 that basically stopped it. This year, September 2018, that I got somewhat of a clean bill of health for my eyes that I'm now revamping again. So.
Wow.
Oh, so you basically had about a year of working on getting this going and then had to be down from it for 3 years.
Well, yeah, I tried to fake it. It was hard to do that. I struggled along. I was still able to make a few things, but couldn't do any shows or promote it. So I'm just now really starting to hit it strong again and bring it back to life.
So the fact that you're in a business that focuses on affirmations and positive messages, was that helpful to you in your recovery?
Absolutely. That's what I was just going to say is it was probably imperative. I can remember specifically one deep, dark night because they didn't know if they could fix my eyes, and I knew how they were not sustainable. It was not a life sustainable at where I was at. And at that moment, it was I either have to have hope or I was going to be hopeless. And so it was through that positive, visualizing myself again, trying to just focus on the positive that helped to really bring me around because it was very scary.
Yeah.
Well,
So with the positive messages, where do you get the idea for the messages?
Well, we all carry messages with us every day, whether they're positive or they're negative. For me, I love quotes. I love words. Even as a teenager, I kept words. They just motivated me. I'm visual. I like to see the fonts. I like to see the lettering. Some people like fortunes, the fortune cookies, or their astrology, or there's meaningful words. I had one woman who carried a bushel and a peck because it was her grandmother's saying. I think it's whatever moves you that you find you want. You don't have to carry a message in it because the jewelry, it's everyday beauty inside and out because you don't have to carry a message. But sometimes it's very meaningful to know that you have something close to you.
we'll have at least linked to your website so people could see photos of your jewelry, but could you at least describe it so that our listeners have some sense of what we're talking about?
It's primarily mixed metal. I have a copper dog tag or a sterling silver dog tag, and then I emboss designs, floral or geometric, on the actual dog tag, and then there's a brass holder behind it that you are able to slip the message into. I also have a new line that I call the Embrace Collection, and it's sterling silver or copper, and the edges on the front, it's all embossed again with different designs, and the edges kind of come around the back and create a little sacred space behind the pendant that you can drop a message into. I like to say it's kind of embracing your message.
So the message is something, so if I had one of these necklaces, or I would write my message on a small piece of paper and insert it in here. So
Correct.
In theory, I could have the word of the day if I wanted.
Absolutely. I've used it when I've done meditation challenges. I'll take that thought for the day and put it in there, and it just reminds me what my focus is throughout the day.
I could see people who do yoga putting the word breathe. Or, because breath is so much a part of yoga and the focus and everything. When you said that bushel and a peck, it reminded me of that song. And that's probably what that was about. My mother-in-law used to sing that song all the time. So, yeah. Can you give us an example of when people might be struggling with something and how they might use the message?
Let's see, there's been several friends buying it for female friends going through, say, breast cancer, where they wanted to be with them at all times, and they could give them words of encouragement, and that every time they saw the necklace, they knew they weren't alone. I also had a mother give her daughter a necklace because her fiance had passed away unexpectedly, and they found love notes in the house, and it helped her to grieve that process. I've also had people who were trying to lose weight and had meaningful words or things that really tied to their why they wanted to make that change for health reasons. And it was a way to, every time you looked at it, you felt it, you see it, it reminds you. It's that permanent reminder throughout your day.
So if someone buys this for their friend, do they put a note in there?
They can. I create a little starter kit, and it's got all my favorite little quotes and everything like that. So they get a little starter kit, and you can write your own little personal note. I have husbands that buy it for their wives to give them a little love note to carry.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's a connection tool, because I think we're so disconnected today that it's just so nice to know that somebody thinks about you and that, you have that connection with them.
Yeah.
And even a connection for yourself, because we get so busy.
Well, that's true. We do. Have you always made jewelry, or did you put it aside when you were working in business?
I've always made art. Jewelry was just one of those things. And yes, I did stop for a while I was in corporate and brought it back around after some time.
Right.
Well, it was really the result of my clients. When you're doing a coaching session for wellness, you're coming up with ideas and finding out, what is it that they're trying to work on. And you have maybe 2, 3, 4 goals for that week. They go out and they have their piece of paper, but you know how your days get going, they get so hectic sometimes that if it's not right in front of your face, you're not going to remember. Even if they're just small little goals, they were ways to help bring it with them every day. And
I have to laugh because I'm thinking, how could they forget their goals? That just seems silly. And then I just remembered I was flipping through my calendar, getting ready for 2019, and I found this checklist of minutes to plank each day, and it was a whole month of planking, and I only had 3 of them checked off. And you know what? I had it right there in my calendar, but so I guess I can really relate to this, even though I'm thinking, how in the heck could they forget their goals? I mean, they're hiring you to be a coach.
You obviously haven't ever sat and talked with someone about your goals and then promptly walk out and forget all about it. I don't want to, confess to being that person, but
I like to look at it as our habit. We're like records. Where our habits are so ingrained, like the album, and the carrier message is kind of like that jolt that bounces it out. You have to kind of skip it until you get another deep groove going in the way you want it to be.
Yes. And that is so true with habits.
Yeah.
It's almost like you need something that leads up to the thing you're supposed to do in order to kickstart that habit.
That's exactly right. And that's why they say, change is just change until you make a transformation, because the transformation is where the new person begins. And you really are new when you make something that drastic to help your health.
Mm-hmm.
So really what you're saying is that the words we're using have power for us.
Absolutely. Other versions of carrier message where I do stamped words, the most powerful words follow I am. How many times have you said, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm so fat. Oh, I'm so ugly. Well, you're not, You're really not. But it's so powerful when you say that. It's so important to realize I am loved, I am kind.
So for putting it in Becoming Elli language, I am strong, I am fit, I am working on my healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely. And that is your choice. And that's where the difference comes in, is human beings have a tendency to go towards the negative. We just do.
Yeah, they sure do.
Yes, and it's becoming self-aware enough of the thoughts that are generated in our mind, because it's constantly happening, whether we're aware or not.
Yeah, it's almost like, I don't know, do we feel like the negative criticism that we bestow on ourselves helps us to improve or eggs us on? But I think the positive, in another sense, has a better effect long term.
Our culture has a tendency to look at the negative and strive to improve where we are falling short. Look at anybody that gets a C and their parents are like, get that B. Well, you know what? maybe we all have our own talents, but it's more about kindness. It's about taking your strengths and excelling, because we're all born with natural abilities. I'm not a math whiz. I can improve, but that's not my calling. Whereas creativity is where I really strive, finding what works for you and what really sparks that inspiration rather than motivation. I look at motivation external, inspiration internal.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, that is interesting because people are always saying, particularly about fitness, I need to be motivated. What do I do for motivation? I started off great. Now I'm not motivated. But
exactly, because motivation is an external desire for something else, whereas inspiration is an internal desire for change, and you have a real understanding of what it is that's driving you.
So with inspiration, because we understand it better and it's inside of us rather than some other goal that someone else has put together for us, is that?
Yes, exactly. It's leading towards that transformation rather than just trying to make a change.
Which is why when people, whether it's lose weight, quit smoking, whatever, when people try to quit smoking because their family is irritated by it, it often doesn't work. It's not until you come through that thought of there's actually a reason for me to go through all that misery.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, that's true. When I'm doing something that I want to do, that I really want, it's not work, it's fun. And when I'm doing something because someone else wants me to do it their way and their thing, it's like I have to force myself to do it.
Exactly.
But yet I say I don't feel motivated. So I guess it's just different. I never thought of motivation as external and inspiration as internal.
Right. And I look at motivation as part of discipline.
Okay.
To be disciplined, whether you want to do it or not, is to me motivation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like willpower then.
Right. And I think what I've learned about willpower is we have it's like a muscle, but it also has fatigue, that when you're working for willpower, you really need to change your environment.
Yeah. Everyone that I read that talk about losing weight, they say if you're going to rely on willpower, you will never succeed.
That's exactly right.
Because inevitably, once you start having the thought, I will not eat that donut, eventually you are going to eat that donut.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
It's almost like your willpower burns out.
Yes, it absolutely does.
What is it about inspiration that continues to renew?
It's a passion in a sense. If it really means something to you, that's the driver. To me, I find my inspiration in my meditations. I meditate every single day, whether it's 15 to 30 minutes. I get my direction. I get my clarity. And sometimes I can't even put it in words. It helps to inspire me to move forward.
So the meditation, can we talk about that for just a few minutes? How long have you been meditating?
Right now, for the last year and a half, I've probably meditated almost every day.
Do you meditate always in the morning?
Yes, in the morning, pretty much. I try to do 15 minimum, but usually it goes to about 20 to 30 minutes.
Do you use anything? Like some people use apps for...
I do. I use apps. I love them. There have been times where I just set a timer and I'm just quiet. I love quiet. I love the morning. That's my very favorite time of the day.
I keep hearing this is meditation is just so good for our brains and our bodies.
It is so good.
So Vicki, when you meditate, do you get one of those affirmations or positive messages and sort of meditate with that, using it like a mantra?
Mm-hmm. So believe it or not, the best way to start is what I tell people is when Oprah and Deepak Chopra do their 21-day free meditations, sign up for it and try it because it's free.
There's one what is it? Headstrong?
Headspace.
Headspace, that's it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Headstrong's a coffee.
Yeah.
Headstrong, yeah, or a book, yeah. Headspace, that's it. Affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
What's the power of affirmations?
Intention. It allows you to set the intention, keep you focused, because again, I created these I took these little canvases and I have them hanging on my wall, and I have feel, focus, flow. because I really honestly believe that I want to feel positive. So I'm going to focus on that, and then I'm going to move with the flow.
Say those words again.
Feel,
Mm-hmm.
focus, and flow.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, we talk about, so with running, having mantras or affirmations to say while you're running, because it's very easy when you're running to think, I hate this.
Yes.
Why am I doing this?
Yes. Yes.
I am so slow. I
Yes.
stink.
Yes.
I'm too old.
Yes. I used
I'm
to
too
run.
slow. It's so easy to get caught up in all of those negative words. Chris and I have talked about it,
Right.
that it's really valuable to try and come up with a few positive things to say in there.
Even if it's just, I'm just going to run to this next telephone pole.
Exactly. Yes.
Or look at me, I'm running, and those people watching us are sitting.
Yes, exactly. That is so true. And see, that's where the choice comes in.
Yeah.
We always have a choice.
It's funny when I'm running, after hearing all of Jill's ideas of how I should be thinking about things, I picture myself running like, I'm just so graceful, and, I can't really get a true picture of my stride. But I don't really want one,
I don't either for me. Oh my gosh.
It's cool though. It is the way you think about things. It turns into the intention turns into your thoughts, and your thoughts turn into your feelings. And I forget how that whole saying goes.
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying.
It kind of trickles from feelings into actions, and actions into results.
It really does. It comes from our core belief.
Is that right?
And yes, it comes from our core belief. And, until you can change those beliefs, you're going to struggle with certain things. For me, it was always, I never felt that I was enough. I was always trying to prove to everybody that I was enough. And once I realized, you know what, girl, you're fine, then I was able to relax and allow myself a little more self-compassion. And I found that it really boils down to self-compassion, feeling that you're worthy and that you're enough. And then everything else is pretty flexible.
So you don't have to answer this if you don't want, but how old were you when you sort of decided you were enough?
Oh gosh, it's just an ongoing process, because I really honestly believe that our lives, and this is going to sound really corny, is like an onion. We just continually peel away, and as we chop up and cry the tears, we're now able to taste the beautiful creation we've got. Because they always say, I hate onions, but they say onions taste good in food. But it really is true that when I finally let go of that whole destination belief, that it is just a journey, and there's little stop-offs. And I also look at our difficult times as the in-between. I co-authored a book, and I was able to really start to really bring out the concept of in-between, because when we're trying to make a change in our life, I call that the in-between, because we're not comfortable. We're not comfortable with this new us. And so that's why we want to always go back to what we used to do, because we're comfortable with it and we're familiar with it. Whereas when you're trying to make a change, you're stepping into the unknown, and we never want to go into the unknown, because you have to trust and have faith.
It's always a struggle when you are growing the most. And
correct.
At least for me, I know whenever I'm extremely, I don't want to say unhappy, that's not the right word, but off base, I don't know where things are going to end up, it really ends up becoming a breakthrough.
What prompted you to become a wellness coach?
I was burned out and stressed out, and felt that I had an ability, because I love to listen and help people sort things out. And wellness coaching was just starting at that time.
Okay. Then you decided to quit doing that and focus just on the jewelry.
Correct. The goal is to bring and marry everything back together eventually. I just didn't expect the eye accident to happen in the midst of everything.
Okay.
Can you describe it in a little more detail of how you make it?
I have a studio. I actually have built a studio. I get sheets of sterling silver, sheets of copper. I have wire. I have all kinds of techniques. And I actually cut, sand, and drill, and emboss, and patina from start to finish.
So these are handmade pieces.
All the way, yes. I use as few findings as possible. I make my own findings.
What's a finding?
A finding would be like a jump ring or, that connects one thing to the other. I'll do cold connections sometimes where you're taking a piece of metal and you hook two pieces of metal together. You make a hole in it and you put that piece and you can connect them.
We're definitely going to have some photos of your jewelry to put up with our note page.
I bet she has some.
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So obviously making the jewelry satisfies your urge to be creative. But the carry your message is also satisfying your urge to help people. I would.
Correct.
Okay. Why is your jewelry inspiring people? Since we're talking about inspiration, there's something about the jewelry that's inspirational.
I guess it goes back to, think about when you get all dressed up and you feel good, and how we carry ourselves, because we're really telling people about us every day. There is a sense of confidence when you stand tall or if you feel confident and love yourself. And I think the jewelry helps in that fact.
Right.
It's just a connection to something that you have a belief in.
All right. Great.
Can you tell me, what does fitness, the word fitness, what does that mean to you?
For me, it means like well-being, fitness of mind, fitness of body, fitness of spirit, because I think every aspect of our life, there needs to be a level of fitness, whether it be financial, whatever that might be. My mantra used to be, if it was worth doing, it's worth overdoing. And there needs to be like a little bit of gray area.
I don't think that's your mantra right now, I hope. That's not your mantra right now, right?
No, it's chill out.
Yeah, chill out.
Without your health, you have nothing, and that is not a joke.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is controllable with diet, and that is the most important thing. You are either feeding health or you're feeding death, whatever you want.
How do you eat now?
Right now, I am I'm unpacking illness is what I'm calling it, because of being sedentary for 3 years going into menopause. I put 40 pounds on, and upon trying to move, I actually ended up with really aggravated fascia, meaning my nerve endings. I could barely walk straight up a lot of the times without massive pain. And so I've moved past that through the foam rolling. And right now I'm just trying to eat as natural as possible. I'm not on any kind of diet per se. I am working with the they call it intermittent fasting. I like to call it intermittent eating.
Yeah, right.
Because it's like
there's a lot more fasting than there is eating.
yeah, and I like it a lot. So
yeah.
I have found that one of the things with the doctor saying that I drink so much water, but I can't seem to maintain levels, and so they want me to eat more carbs than I like.
It's hard for you to stay hydrated, is that
Correct.
what you mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
So I'm working towards a new regiment, whether it be fitness. I know stretching is in there now. Doing my foam roller is in there now. My meditation is in there now. The one thing I used to do a lot of was lift weights. I was a weightlifter. I loved it.
Yeah.
That's going to be my next goal, is doing light weights.
Yeah.
Well, strength training's so important.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it, love it.
Now, you don't do belly dancing anymore.
No, nope, I retired. I'm actually going to get rid of all my costumes. I've got like 25 costumes down in the basement.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I imagine there's a market for those. Well, I mean.
Including, yeah, absolutely.
Well, sure.
All right. Well, so what's next for you?
Working to pull everything together, the wellness coaching and the jewelry. I would like to become an inspirational speaker and be able to inspire others to make change. And I have another book that I just recently put out for a book proposal, so waiting to hear about that.
Wow, you do have a lot of irons in the fire, don't you?
I do.
So how can people reach you if they wanted to reach out to you?
They could go to my website and contact me through that, carriermessage.com. I am on Facebook. I have a Carrier Message page. I also am on Instagram, which is at carry_your_message. My email address is Vicki, Vicki, .wellnesscoach, all one word, @gmail.com.
Okay, that's great. Well, we really appreciate you being on the podcast with us today and sharing so much of your life with our listeners.
Oh, thank you so much for asking. I've enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to check out the website. This might be a good Christmas present site. Do some shopping.
Cool.
I may go do some shopping when we
Cool.
get off of here.
Yay.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Holiday tips for becoming Elli.
I think that's a great idea. Holiday tips for becoming Elli. First thing that I like to do is keep an ongoing list of at least 15 things that I'm grateful for. Things like my family, my fitness, friends, different situations that have happened throughout the year that I wouldn't have expected to have happen. And then, my focus of staying healthy and staying fit, and just, different tools and things that I've learned throughout the year. I just find sometimes writing that down, whether I put it in my phone under the notes section or electronically on my computer or actually, regular pen and pencil, that just really makes a big difference for me, having a list of things I'm grateful for.
So it's sort of like what we just talked about with Vicki about writing it down and carrying it with you.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot to be said for that. So the other thing, and it's sort of, I think, in line with this is a good time to practice meditation if you do meditation or if you pray. A prayer is useful, or just quiet time, whether it's going for a walk by yourself or whatever. I think it's important to have some downtime and quiet time, and whatever way you do it, it's useful at this time of year.
Mm-hmm. Reflection.
Yes, reflection. That's a good, yeah. And maybe, so I'm not the world's most extroverted person, so the social aspects of the season, while I enjoy them, they become tiring to me. So it's important to have sort of that time to re-energize myself by being alone, down, quiet.
Right. And
So.
sometimes that gets lost when you're visiting and traveling with friends and you have a busy calendar of all the various holiday parties and things like that.
Right.
Another thing, that makes sense to me to do to keep the fitness going is to try to up my endorphins. And to me, it's a little more of a struggle in the winter time. With the cold weather, it's just harder to get outside and exercise. So maybe, I'll take a spin class or, go to the gym, do a workout with a run in it on the treadmill, or lift weights, because I know that lifting and keeping that muscle is so important. Anything to get the heart rate up to help to relieve some of the stress of the holidays and, just the ongoing, the new things, all the additional things that I tend to do during the holidays. It's just helpful to do a workout to up the endorphins.
Right. And so if you're going to do lifting, this is the time to really start upping your weights, challenging yourself. Because, not to the point that you're going to hurt yourself or wipe yourself out for 2 weeks, but it's also not the time to, if you're going to up the endorphins, you need to challenge yourself a bit with the lifting. It's a good time to build some muscle. So
I shouldn't just go through my regular routine of 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, you shouldn't. And
maybe even try to take a HIIT class, where you do the high intensity interval training.
That would work. Or if you're going to do your regular routine, maybe try adding a couple of pounds to what you normally do.
Yeah.
Just go with the heavier kettlebell.
Right.
So, but yeah, getting that heart rate up does really help.
I the next tip that I have is I like to look back and revisit, I call it the why and the how, and review the things that went very well with my workouts and fitness, the different workouts for the year. I don't know about you, but I like to keep kind of an ongoing journal, a log of the different workouts that I did, how many races, how many sessions at the gym, the personal training. And even though it doesn't seem like I will, but I do forget some of the things that I did and what went especially well. I really, like for instance, I took some personal training in April in preparation for the Cleveland Half Marathon in May. And I did a lot of single leg routines with the personal trainer. And I'd kind of forgotten about that. And I thought, that really served me well for doing that half marathon, because I tend to have imbalances. And, anyway, I just like to revisit, the why and the how of my different routines and what I learned that was new and what worked.
Okay, so it's sort of the year-end wrap-up. You're thinking about what went well this year, and then I tend to put that into terms too of, all right, based on what I did this year, how do I want to change things for next year, or what worked, what didn't work. But it's a good point so tracking what you've done during the year is useful. We've talked before about keeping sort of the metrics on, whether it's weight loss or your physical whatever, whether it's your measurements or whatever. But tracking the fitness things too is a really valuable tool to be doing. That's good.
Number of sit-ups in a minute, number of push-ups in a minute. I don't get quite that involved with it on revisiting in terms of getting through the holidays, but I do like to look at what worked, and I may repeat some of those workouts during this time of year because I know it was, so good when I went and did it last time. So
right. So it is a good time to go to the gym, and it is a good time to sort of think about what went well and what can you do, and so somehow, and thinking about all those things that you've done, you've just spent a year doing a lot of hard work, and you hate to undo it all in the matter of 2 weeks.
Well, and I guess you can't really lose your fitness that quickly, but I know, and this takes me to the next section that I wanted to talk about, and that's going to all these holiday parties, particularly the parties with appetizers and, drinks and all of that. I might bring my own healthy treat, and it doesn't have to be horribly healthy, but something that is, I don't want people to go, oh no, here she comes.
Yeah.
But there's some appetizers that just can pack on the pounds, and you could have 600 calories scarfed away before you even think about having a dinner. So I might eat before I go, or I might, put some shrimp and cocktail sauce on my little plate and carry it around with me with my other hand with, spritzer water or something like that while I'm talking to people, because I've found it's really difficult to eat when you have a drink in one hand and a plate of food in the other. You can't get food into your mouth. So that's kind of a silly way to not eat, but
so that's good. I like that. That's when I was very young, like in my 20s, I would go to parties, and if I didn't want to drink too much, I would order a gin and tonic because I hated gin and tonics. And so that's it. I was too young to actually think, I could just have ordered spritzer water.
Right.
Sparkling water. That would have been good too. I just ordered the drink I hated so that I wouldn't drink it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think
so anyway,
all these foods that I love and drinks that I love, I'm not sure. I guess there's some things I don't like, and I could put that, but that's a funny one.
So one of the things that I do hear suggested for when you're going to a party like this, you're obviously really going because you want to socialize with people.
Exactly.
So eat before you go.
Right.
At least, I think you said that, but eat something, so you don't have to go like so that you're so full that you can't have anything, but at least you won't feel compelled to overeat. I know when I go into a party where I'm hungry,
Yes.
which often if it's like right after, like sometimes when people have things work related and you go
Right after
to
work.
right after work and you're hungry, you haven't eaten, the tendency is to zoom right to that snack tray table and scarf down everything in sight.
Right.
So
No, that
if you can get something in, and probably up your water intake during this time too. Make sure you're drinking a lot of water.
that's a really good tip. Even at sit-down dinner parties, to alternate water with alcohol, or a glass of water and then have a glass of wine. Staying hydrated is really important, because I don't know, in the wintertime I'm not as thirsty, just because it's not that hot, but certainly I'm drier. My skin is dry. My lips are dry. They get chapped. I think because of the hot air in the car and things like that. So
Right, dry air.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So, staying hydrated, that's a really good one,
Yeah, so that's something that most of us tend to not do enough of anyway, regardless of whether or not it's holidays. It's just,
Right. I was starting to talk about the sit down parties. I don't know if we're there
Oh, yeah,
yet.
yes, I'm sorry.
No,
Yes.
the other thing that I remembered about those is, it seems like when I get to a house, and they, after you take your coat and, and you hand the gift to the hostess, and then what can I get you to drink? And then right away, if I go straight for, wine or beer or something else, I find that I'm better off if I go for sparkling water first, and wait a little bit before I have that first drink, just because, I'm thirsty, and it's just better if I alternate. I guess that's where I'm still thinking about the sit down dinner kind of things.
Right. So don't start drinking the minute you walk in the door.
Right. Even though they offer drinks right away, what can I get you? At least just, maybe it's just my friends. I don't know.
Well, I think that's what most people do.
Yeah, especially if it's after work and, it's dark outside. It just feels like it's later than it is. So, at the dinners, I try to start more with a salad and maybe just a small spoonful of something that's a high carb or a processed food if I feel like I really want to taste it, But I find that having sugar, anything that's super sugary, whether it's an appetizer or even part of the meal, I immediately want to eat more of it again. It's sort of like Lay's potato chips. I can't just eat one bite.
Right.
And
Right.
so I try to stick more with the complex carbs, if that makes sense,
Right.
in terms of, and, any of the holiday parties, whether it's Christmas or New Year's or, having good portions and keeping in mind the protein and veggies with just a small portion of maybe some of the favorite carbs, whether it's pumpkin pie or what have you.
Well, I think so part of that, I think, is planning is, so when you go to someone else's house for dinner, you might well be served food that you don't normally eat.
Right.
And you have to decide beforehand. I mean, because I choose to eat a certain way, but it's not like I have allergies or something. I can certainly eat what people serve me. And I have this thing about not saying I don't eat things. Now, if there's something I really dislike, I won't take it. But, I don't want to be the guest that's like, that people
cringe when you walk in.
Right, or that they never invite you again because you've got this list of things that you turn your nose up at. So to me, it's much better to either decide in advance, I'm going to eat this and I'm going to be careful to eat it in moderation, or I'm going to, finesse it in some way. Like, like people really aren't going to be offended if you turn down dessert, but you need to eat something of the dinner. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I think some forethought into that helps.
Yeah, especially if they asked if there's something that you don't like, but liking things is not my problem.
Right.
It's
Well,
more
yes.
of just staying in moderation, and it's just I don't usually make a huge meal with lots of choices, and so when I go to a party where it's probably something like semi potluck where lots of people brought different things and then there's plenty of food to eat, it's difficult for me not to go back for seconds or thirds. I
Right.
really have to
Yes,
be very
exactly.
conscious of it. And, if I have a choice of what I'm going to bring, I tend to want to bring some complex carbs, like, for instance, roasted Brussels sprouts. And I think we had that on one of our food-related blogs about how I do the Brussels sprouts and the roasted sweet potatoes. Or maybe that's one I'm still working on. We haven't posted it yet. I'm not sure. But
I don't know, but that's one of my favorites is the roasted sweet potato with the Brussels
right,
sprouts. Yes.
right. I like to have those coated in olive oil, and it just tastes
Right.
great to
Those
me.
are those are wonderful.
Well, with dessert, what I like to do is just take a very small piece, half of a half.
Yes, right. So potlucks. I remember years ago having a potluck at my house and everyone, and it was just potluck, bring a dish. Well, everyone brought cheesy potatoes, we had more cheesy stuff than every dish was cheesy something. And I love cheesy things, but it was actually sort of overwhelming. If I bring a dish to a potluck, I try to bring something that is something like a roasted vegetable or just something kind of plain because it's often the only dish there that isn't coated in something. And the other one is if I have anything to do in organizing it, is to sort of assign people. Could you bring some vegetables? Could you bring who's going to bring if you're going to have meat or a pasta dish or whatever. It's just so that you don't end up with a whole counter full of cheesy potatoes.
Cheesy potatoes. Yeah. Well, I think part of it is there was a time where that was very popular because you could buy the frozen potatoes, you could grab the cheese, you could be baking that while you were getting ready,
Yep.
and it was
Yes.
popular.
Yes.
I don't
It
know.
was
It
very
was popular. And I think different recipes make the rounds and become very popular based on their ease or how people like them. But you're right. If you can assign different people to do different parts of the meal, you get more variety and, maybe it's some more protein and things.
Right.
Weird about it.
Right. So I know just because I have been out with you, Chris, that you tend to, if you're going to have a beer, you tend to drink a light beer. And I like
Right.
beer and I tend to not drink light beers. So, and so if I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a beer, I want it to be a good beer. And
Yeah.
I like craft beers and I will drink those. So,
Sure.
but what I will then try to do is recognize, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a beer or two this evening. And so I might not adjust my behavior during the week so that I don't feel like
Gotcha. Right.
I want to be able to enjoy it without feeling like I'm doing something,
Right. Planning ahead so that you're looking at kind of your overall
Right.
calories for the week rather than their calories for the night.
Right, exactly.
Because
So,
the thing that's really bad is to think, oh, I'm going to eat a lot tonight, so I won't eat anything the rest of the day. And you show up at the place and you're starving and you're thirsty. And the next
well,
thing
right.
you know,
And then if you're starving and
right.
then you say, hey, well, so I could have my high alcohol craft beer, then I'm going to be drunk at the party and then I'll eat everything and probably make a fool of myself. And that's not a great way to celebrate either.
Yeah, and the next morning it's really tough to get up and do that good workout in the morning or the race the next day
That's
for
true. Yeah. So,
I was just, I don't know, I said the word race and it's going to take me down a different path, but do you remember when we first did our first Frosty 5?
yeah, the 5-mile race. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that was probably 4 or 5 years ago now, but I'll have to post a picture of that on our website too. We might have a picture up somewhere of us in our
We do have
funny
I don't know if it's
sweaters
on
and
our-
all of
but
that.
Yes.
Oh, I'll find it. Anyway,
So So since we're going down that, I'll just quick say that you and I signed up for that. We had this conversation. We both thought it was a 5K.
Yes.
And when we went to sign up, we realized it was a 5 mile. So for those of you who aren't runners or aren't onto the metric system, a 5K is about 3 miles. So significantly shorter than 5 miles.
Yes.
And we had this whole conversation. Well, I've never run that far. What do we want to do? And we decided, all right, we'll just go for it. And
yeah, we trained.
We trained and we did it, and it was a lot of fun.
It was. It was.
And
I think you won for the sweater.
I think I did. And this is a nice little memory for me, is my parents were visiting me that year for Christmas.
Aww.
And they came out and watched us run by. And my father got to tell me all over again about what a horrible runner I had been as a child, and that he was very proud of me. And so it's a nice. I mean, that I didn't mean that in any negative way. It's a nice memory for me that
right.
They saw that. And
I do remember that they were standing there. We waved.
And yeah, it was that was a fun day.
It was a really fun day. So,
yes.
Back to our holiday tips. And that's how the holidays should be, full of good memories like that, right?
Yeah, it should be. That's right. So this year is going to be a challenge for me because I am going on a cruise over
that's right.
the Christmas holiday. So that's like a lot of food.
A lot of food that you don't have to prepare. You just get to eat.
And it's, yes, right. I just have to show up and eat it. And so the nice thing about a cruise ship is I have been on a cruise once before, but it's been many, many years. But I will say you can walk on the deck, the decks, and they have, they actually tell you how, they have like a walking route on board. So you can sort of see where you want to go or, so I figure I can do that. They do have a fitness center. I don't know how much I'll do that. I also noticed they have some yoga classes, so maybe I'll try and do that.
Sure.
I think the food part is what's really going to take some planning for me.
Right. Well, I've been on a cruise, and I know that the food was a difficult part, but I know that you'll use these tips along the way so that it won't be too overwhelming for you.
Yes. Yes.
The other tip, and I think this is probably one of the last tips I have, is when in doubt, chew gum. If it's not a meal, if I'm chewing gum, I'm not thinking about food so much. And, I know some people don't like to chew gum, but it's a good tip for me. It works for me. So.
Well, yeah, that's good. This isn't really necessarily holidays, but it is sort of if you're sitting there watching TV or whatever with your family. I took up knitting as basically a way to have something to do with my hands when I'm sitting there in the evening, because for a while there, my son and his girlfriend and I had this holiday tradition of watching the Great British Bake Off show.
Oh, yeah. That'll make you hungry.
Well, yeah, let me tell you that if you sit there and watch these people making these fancy cakes and cookies and biscuits for every evening, you do start to crave cakes and cookies and biscuits.
Right.
So taking up knitting is a good way of keeping your hands busy so you're not busy picking up cookies and putting them in your mouth.
Right. And you end up with some beautiful sweater or socks or hat.
Or nicely colored dishcloths to use.
Exactly.
I go for pretty basic knitting. Let's put it that way.
So, I guess the whole thing is to make the holidays about the people and talking with everyone rather than, focusing too much on the food, whether it's, the cleanup, the prep, or the huge display on the cruise ship.
Right. Well, so I think the thing to remember is it is a holiday. We are celebrating. It is okay to enjoy yourself, but you also don't want to undo a whole year's worth of focus. So it's just good to be mindful of what you have accomplished and what you're hoping to accomplish, and to keep that in mind as you enjoy your holidays.
Right.
And I hope everyone has a happy holiday.
Very much so.
Thank you to Vicki for sharing her story and her insights about the value of words, focus, goals, and be sure to check out the website with her jewelry. You can find a link to that in our show notes.
I've been to her website, and that jewelry is gorgeous. It's so meaningful. In fact, I gave one to my sister. I think that it was one of her favorite pieces too. There's something about that really, it keeps you mindful of what is important and what you want to focus on.
I think that's important. That's the one thing about, podcasts are great, but they are audio, and there's occasionally times when you wish you could show people what you're talking about, and this is one of those times. So I hope that our listeners will go to Vicki's website, which is
carryyourmessage.com.
Thank you. And check it out, because they are beautiful. And regardless of whether or not you buy jewelry, but do look at it and just think about the value of remembering your goals and of carrying what's important to you close to your heart.
So I'm Chris.
And I'm Jill. Thanks for listening, and be sure to check us out on Facebook, join the Becoming Elli group, and subscribe to learn about new podcast episodes.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. See you next time.